Okay, so I'm just about to start chapter 5, which is called arithmetic. But before I do, I thought some of you might have been hearing in the background a few grumbling noises and some sneezes, and they're not coming from me. So I just thought I'd better share with you who they're coming from. So Torvi has decided she would like to know a little bit about the story too, although I'm not sure how much she's going to remember since she keeps falling asleep. Let's just hope she doesn't start snoring, because you definitely will hear that. Okay, so Matilda longed for her parents to be good and loving and understanding and honourable and intelligent. The fact that they were none of these things was something she had to put up with, and it was not easy to do so. But the new game she had invented of punishing one or both of them each time they were beastly to her made her life more or less bearable. Being very small and very young, the only power Matilda had over anyone in her family was brain power. For sheer cleverness, she could run rings round them all. But the fact remained that any 5-year-old girl in her family is obliged to do as she's told, however silly the orders might be. Thus, she was always forced to eat her evening meals out of TV dinner trays in front of that dreaded box. She always had to stay alone on weekday afternoons, and whenever she was told to shut up, she had to shut up. Her safety valve, the thing that prevented her from going completely around the bend, was the fun of devising and dishing out splendid punishments, and the lovely thing was that they seemed to work, at any rate for small periods of time. The father in particular became less cocky and unbearable for several days after receiving a dose of one of Matilda's magic medicines. The parrot in the chimney affair quite definitely cooled both parents down a lot, and for over a week they were comparatively civil to their daughter. So they're quite normal. They weren't kind to her, but they didn't shout and snap at her like they'd been doing in the past. But she knew it wouldn't last. The next flare-up came one evening in the sitting room. Mr. Wormwood had just returned from work, and Matilda and her brother were sitting quietly on the sofa waiting for their mother to bring in their TV dinners on a tray. The television had not yet been switched on. In came Mr. Wormwood in a loud check suit and a yellow tie. The appalling broad orange and green check of a jacket and trousers almost blinded the onlooker. He looked like a low-grade bookmaker dressed up for his daughter's wedding to somebody that bets money, and he was clearly very pleased with himself this evening. He sat down in an armchair and rubbed his hands together and addressed his son in a loud voice. "Well, my boy," he said, "your father has had the most successful day. He's a lot richer tonight than he was this morning. He has sold no less than 5 cars, each one at a tidy profit. Sawdust in the gearboxes, the electric drill on the speedometer cables, a splash of paint here and there, and a few other clever little tricks, and those idiots have been falling over themselves to buy them." He fished out a bit of paper from his pocket and studied it. "Listen, boy," he said, addressing his son and ignoring Matilda. "Seeing as you'll be going into this business with me one day, you've got to know how to add up the profits you make at the end of each day. Go and get yourself a pad and a pencil, and let's see how clever you are." So there he is, in his blooming awful suit. Look at that. It's not the nicest, is it? Ugh. It says, the son obediently did as he was told and left the room and returned with writing materials. "Write down these numbers," the father said, reading from his bit of paper. "Car number 1 was bought by me for £278 and sold for 1,423. Have you got that?" The 10-year-old boy wrote down the 2 separate amounts carefully. "Car number 2, the father went on, cost me £118 and sold for 760. Got it?" "Yes, Dad," the son said, "I've got that." "And then car number 3 cost me £111 and sold for £999.50. "Say that again," the boy said. "How much did it sell for?" £999.50, the father said. "And that, by the way, is another way of my nifty little tricks to diddle the customer. Never ask for a big round figure, always go just below it. Never say £1,000 always say 999.50 because it sounds a lot less, but it isn't. It's clever, that, isn't it? Very, said the son. You are brilliant, Dad. Car number 4 cost £86, a real wreck that was, and sold for £699.50. Not too fast, the son said, writing down the numbers. Right, I've got it. Car number 5 cost £637 and sold for £1,649.50. You've got all those figures written down, son? Yes, Daddy, the boy said, crouching over his pad and carefully writing. Very well, said the father. Now you work out the profit I've made on each of them 5 cars and add up the total. Then you'll be able to tell me how much money your rather brilliant father has made altogether today. That's a lot of sums, the boy said. Of course it's a lot of sums, the boy answered. But when you got a big business like I am, you've got to be hot stuff with arithmetic. I practically got a computer inside my head. It took me less than 10 minutes to work the whole thing out. You mean you did it in your head, Dad? The boy said, googling. Well, not exactly, the father said. Nobody could do that, but it didn't take me long. When you finish, tell me what you think the profit was for the day. I've got the total figure written down here, and then I'll tell you if you're right. Matilda said quietly, Dad, you made exactly £4,303.50 altogether. Don't butt in, the father said. Your brother and I are busy with high finance. But Dad... Shut up, the father said. Stop guessing and trying to be clever. Look at your answer, Dad, Matilda said gently. If you've done it right, it ought to be £4,303.50. Isn't that what you've got, Dad? So there she is, and she's worked it out, look. You doesn't look very happy that she's worked it out. I think I'd be very proud of her. The father glanced at the piece of paper in his hand. He seemed to stiffen. He became very quiet. There was a silence, and then he said, Say that again. £4,303.50, Matilda said. There was another silence. The father's face began to go dark red, a really nasty red colour. I think it's right. I'm sure it's right, Matilda said. You little cheat, her father suddenly shouted, pointing at her with his finger. You looked at my bit of paper. You read it off from what I've written on there. Daddy, I'm on the other side of the room, Matilda said. How could I possibly see it? Don't give me that rubbish, her father shouted. Of course you looked. You must have looked. No one in the world could give a right answer like that, especially a girl. You're a little cheat. Madam, that's what you are. A cheat and a liar. At that point, the mother came in carrying a large tray on which there were 4 suppers. This time it was fish and chips, which Mrs. Wormwood had picked up in the fish and chip shop on her way home from bingo. It seemed that bingo afternoons left her exhausted both physically and emotionally, because she never had any energy enough to cook an evening meal. So if it wasn't a TV dinner, it had to be fish and chips. What are you looking so red in the face about, Harry? She said as she put the tray down on the coffee table. Your daughter is a cheat and a liar, the father said, taking his plate of fish and chips and placing it on his knee. Turn the telly on. Let's not have any more talk about it. Oh dear. Maybe he should have seen if maybe she did cheat, or maybe she did know the answer. Maybe then he'd know just how special she is. What do you think? I'll leave that one with you.